I'll be training my puppy from a wheelchair. How would you recommend teaching her to walk politely on a leash from my chair? Any special tips?
How would you recommend teaching her to walk politely and leash from my chair? Well, that's a good question, and that'll be a fun challenge. I mean, in some ways, it might be easier. Here I just threw the gauntlet for you here, Catherine, because it's such a clear boundary, where your dog should be. Feet, puppies, and a body is one slim thing. They can get around you, around you, around you, go through your legs and jump on you. With a chair, there's a nice solid item right there, and I would just reinforce really heavily for side sitting next to your chair. Side sitting, side sitting, side sitting, and you still do the same thing. One roll forward, little bit, one rotation, half a rotation, wheel rotation forward, and reinforce the stopping. A lot of what we do with puppies to get them to walk politely by our side is just reinforcing sit at the side and then eventually putting movement in between. So your puppy is always anticipating and eagerly awaiting when you stop so they can sit and get rewarded, right? And maybe you'll need a leash if your puppy's reactive so that they can't get in front of you or behind you. But you can literally just say, hey, stay at my side, reinforce, reinforce, reinforce. Now we're going to move a little bit, and I'm going to feed you when we stop. And just like we take 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, you just do the same thing, but you'll do that with your chair.
All right. We've got a question from Lori. She says, how do I get my 8-month-old adopted girl to stop freaking out at the neighbor dog when we go out back? The fence between us is just a lattice work. She's doing continual barking, lunging, hackles up, just out of control.
Yeah, that's something you certainly don't want them to continue and practice, and it's a pain in the butt when you have a fence fighting issue with a neighbor. And my guess is that the other dog is partaking, if not instigating as well. I mean, ideally, and this is probably too long to handle on a forum like this, but a few tips would be long line with recall practice. Avoiding for a little while while you practice recalls and maybe go on walks more than in the backyard, or stay on the other side of the yard with the line on for a little while you're working on this. Conditioning that hearing the bark means turn and look at me, don't react, by not allowing that to happen. Don't let them practice in the meantime. So I say long line so that your dog can't rush to the fence and run or fight at the fence. I just had to do this. I have 5 acres, so I have fence lines that have nobody nearby, and there's one where there's some dogs, and one of them is an adolescent now, as is one of my dogs, and they've just started going rah, 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 running this little bit of fence line and in this area. And yeah, we took a few steps back, and she started this when she was about last month, I guess, so maybe she was, I don't know, 13, 14 months. And I put her back on a long line. I mean, we just need to have 5 fenced acres, and her recalls were beautiful. But she started getting into this because this dog is engaging. They're both engaging. They're kind of in the same mindset. So we spent 2 weeks parading up and down that side with me, with her on a line, and me redirecting her, calling her first very close, just getting her to turn her head every time that she engaged, even looked at the dog, and backed up as far as we could, to keep the distance, to increase the distance, to make it easier for us as we went, and back up a few steps and do that. I would also, maybe you might have to put another barrier in there, or a secondary faux fence, get some snow fencing or some of that wire mesh farm field fence, and add a second barrier in there that will help. If you do something like the snow fencing, it can be very temporary. But you might want to consider in the long run making a little bit of a barrier there, or some bushes. However, if you work hard and don't let it happen in the meantime by taking her on line and working it every time, you can probably stop this in a few weeks' time.
While you might anticipate your puppy to be high energy, you may find yourself with an unmotivated or even lazy puppy. In the next, we'll be discussing some ways you can train your unmotivated puppy so you can get the most out of your training and play sessions together. Click to watch now.